The movie starts with a husband and wife, Joe and Laura, relaxing on holiday in rural Poland. We learn they used to be highly skilled American spies, but they quit their dangerous jobs to have a normal life together. They have breakfast with two French people also on vacation. They chat about their lives, and the French woman, a doctor, asks Joe and Laura what they do for a living. The couple doesn't want to reveal their past, so they make up a story about owning a small store. After breakfast, they go back to their room. Joe wants to go sightseeing with the French tourists, but Laura feels sick and stays behind. She tells Joe to go without her. Before he leaves, he secretly takes a gun, just in case. He, the tourists, and a local guide go into the woods. At the same time, two CIA agents are flying a small plane towards the same forest. Suddenly, their plane is attacked and crashes. Joe hears the crash and goes to investigate. Laura sees smoke from the forest and worries about Joe. She sends him a message on her satellite phone. Joe and the tourists find the crashed plane. The pilots are dead, each shot in the head. Joe and the doctor realize it wasn't an accident. Someone shot the plane down. Joe, with his background, knows this means trouble. Joe knew the dead pilots were secret CIA agents. He found a data storage device on one of them and took it. The doctor argued it wasn't his, but Joe insisted it held important secrets. Unbeknownst to them, the crashed plane's radio was still working, broadcasting their conversation to the CIA headquarters. The CIA heard Joe talking about the device. A high-ranking CIA official was told about it and how it contained evidence of his wrongdoing. He demanded to know the crash site's location, and was told it was deep in the Polish woods. Joe told the doctor and other tourists to go back to their lodging because it was dangerous. Before they could leave, they were surrounded by armed men led by a man named Orland. Orland asked the guide what they were doing there. The guide said they were tourists who found the crash. Orland asked the doctor where she was from. When she didn't answer, he shot her. He then asked Joe if he found a data device. Joe lied and said he didn't know anything about it, even though he had it hidden. Orland tried to see if Joe was lying, but Joe remained calm and convinced him he was telling the truth. While Orland's men searched the plane, Joe fought back. He stole a vehicle and tried to escape, but it ran out of gas. He then took a motorcycle from one of the armed men and sped away. The story then focuses on Chester, an older, active secret agent. The CIA leader contacted Chester and told him to capture Joe in Poland. Chester questioned why they were targeting Joe, who had retired 5 years ago. The CIA leader explained that Joe stole a crucial data device, and they had to get it back. He promised Chester double his usual pay if he succeeded. Feeling obligated to his country, Chester agreed to the mission and flew to Poland right away. Orland, the leader of the hired soldiers, couldn't find Joe. He was sure Joe was still somewhere in the woods. Angry, Orland yelled into the forest, saying that if Joe didn't give himself up, he would go to the lodge and kill everyone there, including Joe's wife, Laura. Joe, hiding nearby, heard the threat and quickly called Laura on a satellite phone, telling her she was in danger. Laura, also a former top agent, immediately went into action. She got her weapons ready for a fight. Then, she went to a nearby room and told the tourists staying there to hide under the bed. Just as she finished, 3 of Orland's men broke into the lodge. Laura quickly and efficiently took them down. Meanwhile, Chester, the agent sent by the CIA boss, arrived at a hotel in the countryside. He tested a poison he had made by giving it to the driver who took him to the hotel. The driver died soon after leaving the hotel. Chester smiled, happy that his poison worked. Joe, tired, made his way back to the town. He broke into an empty house to rest. He used the house's phone to call the CIA boss. Joe demanded to know why the data device was so important and why so many people wanted it. The CIA boss said it had important government information and told Joe to give it back. Joe knew the device revealed the CIA boss and other powerful people were corrupt. He told the CIA boss that he wasn't going to give it back. He hated corrupt people and planned to make the information public. This made the CIA boss panic. He quickly found out where Joe was calling from and told Chester where to find him. The CIA boss told Chester to get rid of Joe and retrieve the data device, no matter what. Chester immediately went to find Joe at his hiding place. At the house, Joe called Laura to say sorry for causing trouble by taking the device from the crashed CIA plane. He said he did it to expose corrupt officials and protect their country. Laura supported his decision and told him to be careful. Just as the call ended, Chester arrived. They greeted each other like old friends, chatting casually. Then, Chester asked if Joe had taken the device from the plane. Joe lied, saying Orland had taken it. Chester didn't believe him and suggested Joe hand it over to avoid a fight. To make things less tense, Chester poured 2 drinks and offered one to Joe. Joe, suspicious, refused. Instead, he asked Chester about Orland, wanting to know who he was and why everyone wanted the device. Chester explained that Orland was working for Russian spies, who wanted the device to cause trouble for America. Joe asked if Chester really believed the device had important American secrets, or if it had information about the CIA boss's corruption. Chester said he didn't care about the contents, he just wanted to finish his job and get paid. The scene changed to Laura at the lodge. Orland's men were holding the tourists hostage. Laura quietly went upstairs and took out one of the guards. She told the tourist to stay put while she dealt with the rest of the guards downstairs. Downstairs, Orland's men were relaxing and drinking. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise, a body falling to the floor. When the armed men checked the noise, they found one of their own, thrown down by Laura. The leader's assistant told his men to search upstairs. When he found another dead guard, he got angry and ordered everyone to hunt down whoever was responsible. As they went up the stairs, Laura attacked them, taking them out one by one. At one point, Laura was trapped and held at gunpoint, forced to give up. Luckily, she had a small knife hidden in her hair, which she used to turn the situation around. After dealing with the guards, Laura faced the leader's assistant. Though tired from the fight, she was overpowered and forced into a chair. He mocked her, asking why people like her always acted so tough. Laura calmly replied that she wasn't American, but German. She said that she and Joe were almost unbeatable, which is why they were once considered the best secret agents in the world. Hearing Joe's name, the assistant realized she was his wife. He then ordered her to contact Joe and tell him to hand over the data device. Laura agreed, but only if he returned her satellite phone, as it was the only way to reach Joe. When he gave it back, Laura quickly entered a code, triggering an explosion in the room. The scene changed to Orland and his men, who had found Joe and Chester at the house. Joe's location was given away by a local villager who had seen him. Orland ordered 3 of his men to enter the house and confront Joe, but they hesitated, knowing he was a dangerous opponent. Angry at their hesitation, Orland shot them all. Inside the house, Joe and Chester realized they were surrounded. Chester, sitting down, asked Joe to help him stand, complaining of back pain. But as Joe reached out, Chester suddenly stabbed him with a syringe. Chester explained that the syringe contained his own poison. Joe was told he had less than a day to live unless he got the cure for the poison. Chester promised to give him the cure, but only if Joe gave him the data storage device. Joe reluctantly agreed, but only after they dealt with Orland and his team. Right away, Chester shot out a power line, making everything dark. Orland and his people started shooting at the house, filling it with bullets. Orland threw in a smoke bomb, making it hard to see and breathe. His men went inside, but Joe and Chester were ready. A big fight started. During the fight, Chester set off a bomb that blew open the garage door. The explosion made the data device fly out of Joe's hand, and Chester grabbed it. He hit Joe and ran off, leaving him alone with Orland's men. Joe, now weak and outnumbered, had to fight his way through the hired soldiers. One of Orland's men threw another bomb, causing a big explosion that made Joe even weaker. Later, Orland came up to Joe with a gun and asked why he didn't just give him the data device in the first place, to avoid all the fighting. Joe asked why the device was so important. Orland said it had proof that the CIA boss and other powerful people were corrupt. Orland hated them and thought the device was the way to stop them. He also admitted to shooting down the CIA plane to get the device. Joe realized that Orland wasn't just a mercenary working for the Russians, they both wanted to expose corrupt officials in America. Joe apologized and said Chester had already taken the device. He suggested they work together to find Chester, who was probably going to the lodge to hurt Laura. Orland agreed, and they made a temporary team, rushing off to find Chester. On the way, Joe called the CIA boss and said he was going to reveal all his corruption. The CIA boss laughed and said Chester had already gotten the device. He also made fun of Joe, reminding him that he was poisoned and didn't have much time left. Joe explained that the poison hadn't fully worked on him, so he wasn't in immediate danger. The CIA boss, very angry, ordered his team to send a powerful flying robot to kill Joe and Orland. Soon, 2 armed flying robots showed up in the sky, looking for Joe. They quickly saw him and Orland driving and started shooting at their car. Joe swerved and sped up, just barely avoiding the bullets, but the robots kept chasing them. The chase got more and more intense, and they eventually crashed their car trying to escape. Luckily, both Joe and Orland were okay. They quickly focused on the robots and, after a tough fight, managed to destroy one. But just as they relaxed, Orland pointed his gun at Joe. Orland said that even though they both wanted to stop bad people in the government, he liked to work alone. Joe had to give up, but before Orland could do anything, Laura shot him. However, they still weren't safe. The other robot attacked, causing a big explosion. Laura and Joe survived, but both were badly hurt. The next morning, Joe took Laura to a lake. She was weak from an earlier fight, and Joe tried to help her. His efforts helped her get a little better. As they rested, Chester suddenly appeared. Joe was confused, wondering why Chester wasn't on his way to America with the data device. Chester said he suddenly felt very weak. Joe revealed that he had poisoned Chester, not himself. He showed a cure and explained that the drink Chester had earlier was poisoned, which is why Joe didn't drink it. Joe offered to give Chester the cure if he gave back the data device and help stop the bad people in the government. Chester agreed, having no other choice. So, the three of them, despite not liking each other much, decided to work together. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks and see you again soon. Take care.